Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on new media, today we would be talking on cyber psychology, and for this discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Anubhuti Yadav. Dr. Anubhuti Yadav is Associate Professor and she is teaching new media in IIMC. Let's welcome Dr. Anubhuti Yadav and let's try to know more and more about cyber psychology. Hello ma'am, welcome to the UGC lecture.
Good morning everyone. Today we'll be discussing about one of the concepts from cyber psychology. If you look at this particular field, cyber psychology, it's a very broad field and also it's at a very nascent stage because there are a number of people who've been saying that there's not much happening online, so there is no need to have a discipline which is called cyber psychology. But over the years, after the advent of internet, we have found that there are a lot of people who are there on internet. The way they are behaving on internet is totally different than the way they behave in real life. So this particular concept and this particular discipline has emerged, which is called cyber psychology. And in cyber psychology, there are a number of issues, there are a number of concepts, and today we'll be talking about three major concepts from cyber psychology. One is online disinhibition effect. That's a theory which has been given by John Suller. He's an American psychologist. And then we'll be talking about another concept which is of narcissism, and then we'll be talking about internet trolling. In a way, all these concepts are related to each other. If we talk about the narcissism and trolling, the reason for narcissism and trolling is online disinhibition. So what we are going to do is we'll start with online disinhibition effect. That's a theory which has been given by John Suller. And then we'll move on to narcissism, and then we'll move on to trolling, and we'll talk about what trolls are, why they get into this particular thing called trolling, what is the reason behind this, what are their personality traits, and this is what we are going to discuss today. So coming on to online disinhibition effect, we know that nowadays we spend a lot of time on online, on cyberspace, and the way we are behaving online, the way we communicate with each other, the way we communicate with our friends, the way we communicate with the masses is different from the way we communicate in the real life. We have seen number of cases wherein people are using rude language, harsh words, people are giving threat to the other people, but at the same time there are a number of other positive things also, wherein if we talk about the online space, the people, they are sharing their views, their personal views, they are sharing the content which has been created by them. So but what makes them share all these things? So that's why there is this concept which has emerged, and that is called online disinhibition. Online disinhibition is that the moment you are online, you are less inhibited, which means that you're free, you are less restrained, you're open to share a lot of information with other people. And just because you're online, you are able to do so. Many a times it might happen that in real life, you might not share certain things, you might not share certain feeling with the other person, but the moment you go online, you tend to share those feelings, you tend to share your views, you tend to interact with number of people which might not happen in real life. So if we talk about the online disinhibition effect, it actually works in two opposite directions. So it has both kind of effects. It has a positive effect also, and it has negative effect also. Now if we talk about the positive effect, it has a benign effect, which means that the positive effect, which means that you share personal information. Many a times we are there on Facebook, or we are on Twitter, or we are on Instagram because we would like to share a lot of information about ourselves, and the reason behind sharing that information is because we want to share it with the world that okay, this is what we are doing. It is also used for networking. You want to tell people that okay, this is the kind of work you are involved in. Also, it reveals secret emotions, fear, wishes, because many a times you have a lot of emotions, and you don't have people around you, and still you want to take that out. So the online platform gives you an opportunity to do so. Also, there's another benign effect, and which is very important, that when people are online, they tend to show unusual act of kindness. And we have seen that, when we talk about, the different campaigns, whether it's on, child abuse, whether it's on women empowerment, people tend to participate in this, and they tend to show unusual act of kindness when they are online. But when we are saying that these are benign, disinhibition effect, this can be the toxic also. For example, like if I'm talking about, revealing your emotions, revealing your fear, or revealing your wishes. So it depends in what context you are sharing that particular information. Many a times, you are angry with someone and you share that particular information. For you, it becomes a benign disinhibition effect because there's something which is going on in your mind and you've shared that. But it might be bad for the other person. The other person might feel offended by that particular post or by that particular tweet. So there is a very thin line between the two, and it depends on the context in which we are sharing that particular information. Now, coming on to the toxic disinhibition effect. Toxic disinhibition effect is, as I said, that we've seen people using rude language, harsh criticism. They show anger, hatred towards other people. There are a lot of people who are giving threats to the number of people, and especially when we talk about the post which is related to some political issues, or maybe the post related to certain campaigns. So these are the things which are going online. Also, when we are talking about the toxic effect, the dark world of internet, which means that there are a lot of spaces and there are a lot of places on the internet wherein people are going and they are spending time there. So it could be pornography, it could be crime and violence. So these are the toxic effects. But as I said, there is a very thin line between the two. Something which we can say benign disinhibition effect for the self, it could be a toxic for the other. Now, what can these do? If you are talking about the benign disinhibition effect and the toxic inhibition effect. First, we'll talk about the benign, which means that I'm talking about the positive effect. So when you are sharing information with other, when you are, sharing your emotions, when you are, sharing your, fear, what it can do. First is it will help you to understand and develop self. You'll understand yourself, and since you are understanding yourself, you'll be able to develop yourself. Now, understanding self means how can we understand self through Facebook post or the tweet. What you can do is, you can just go back maybe like 6 months, and you can see, what kind of posts you are, posting on Facebook, or what kind of tweets you are sending. That will give you an impression, that will give you an information that, how you are feeling at one point of time. So maybe you can make out that at one point of time when you were very angry. So what kind of post you made at that point of time? What kind of tweet have you sent? When you were happy, what kind of tweet you sent at that point of time? What kind of post you made at that point of time? So this will help you to understand yourself. Also, it will help in resolving interpersonal intrapsychic problems. Many a times it happens that we have number of issues with other people, especially when it comes to interpersonal communication. We might not be comfortable with one particular person at one point of time, but when it comes to sharing that information or sharing that feeling with that person in real life, we are little restrained. We don't share that information. Or maybe we want to talk to someone, but in the real life, we feel inhibited and we don't speak to that particular person. So that's another thing, which means that you can resolve interpersonal intrapsychic problem wherein you can share your feeling online, which becomes very easy. You don't like a person or you like a person, so sharing that in real life, you feel less restrained. But you go to a Facebook, you like that particular person's post, you comment on that particular person's post, you tell that person that okay, fine, you like that person. So which means that it will help you in resolving interpersonal problems. And then comes the self-actualization, and that's the most important thing, and many people, they are involved in this. Self-actualization, like we have created something, you've written a poem, you've written an essay, you have a viewpoint on, you know, something which is going on in a society, and you want to share it with the world. You might not share it with for appreciation, but you're sharing it because, you know, you feel that, you know, you've written something and it should be, you know, the people should, you know, read that particular thing. So for self-actualization also, we have this benign disinhibition effect. Then the toxic. When we talk about the toxic disinhibition effect, what can this do? The first is blind catharsis, which means that, you know, when someone is angry, right, the emotions are there, the feelings are there, and the moment you go on, you know, online, there is a blind catharsis, which means that without thinking anything, you take everything out. You may abuse someone, you may send in, you know, threat messages, you may, you know, use, you know, harsh words, language. So the blind catharsis is one. Then second is a fruitless repetition compulsion. This is something which which happens quite often when we spend time on, you know, online or on internet, which means that we spend a lot of time doing certain things which is not at all fruitful. This happens with number of people. For example, you know, for the academician, we start, you know, surfing net because we have to work on a certain presentation, and we spend around 2-3 hours or 4 hours, you know, on internet, and then we realize that we haven't achieved much, which means that, you know, instead of searching something which was relevant to us, we got distracted and we spent time, you know, somewhere else. And when we come back to our work, we realize that we haven't done much as far as our work was concerned. So a fruitless repetition compulsion, and compulsion means that, you know, time and again we visit, you know, those particular places. A simple example is like Facebook. For example, how many times you know, we post something on Facebook? Maybe once or twice in a day, but many people, they are hooked on to the Facebook throughout the day, which means that they go, they look at, you know, what's happening on the Facebook, and this is called the fruitless repetition compulsion, wherein repetitively you're going to one particular platform and you're spending a lot of time there, and at the end of it you realize that, you know, it's not at all fruitful for you. And then acting out unsavory needs without any personal growth at all. That is something which we've discussed earlier, which means that you're visiting certain places, you're visiting certain sites, through which, I mean, you won't be able to gain something substantial. Now, this is the online disinhibition. What are the causes of online disinhibition? What happens that, you know, the people are, you know, less restrained when they are online? There are a number of factors which are responsible for this, and these are the factors. The first one is the dissociative anonymity, invisibility, asynchronicity, solipsistic introjection, dissociative imagination, minimization of status and authority, individual differences, and predisposition. What we are going to do is we are going to discuss all these factors in detail. So the first is dissociative anonymity. Now we know that, you know, on a cyberspace, it's easy to be anonymous. The moment you have a fake ID, right, if your usernames and email IDs, they are contrived, right, you become anonymous on a cyberspace. You can hide your you know, identity, you can alter your identity. And this actually gives you an opportunity to separate your action online from their in-person lifestyle and identity. And this opportunity makes them feel less vulnerable, which means that, you know, the moment you're anonymous, the moment you feel that, you know, whatever you are doing online will not be associated with your real life, you feel less restrained. You feel that you can do anything, and since it won't be associated with your personality, in real life, you tend to, you know, post number of things, and you feel, you know, less inhibited. And you know, in that case, what happens that, you know, the online self, that becomes a compartmentalized self, which means that, you know, the online self is totally different from, you know, your real self. And when we are saying, and this is what the anonymity is, which means, you being anonymous when you are online, and since you're anonymous, you are, posting, number of things. It could be good or it could be bad also, but most of the time we've seen, and if you look at the tweets, if you look at the comments on the Facebook, the people who are anonymous, they tend to write something which is negative rather than writing positive, right? So, and the dissociative here means that since that particular personality, which means the anonymous, and your the personality which is different from your real personality, whenever there is any problem, so you tend to dissociate with that. For example, using that fake ID, using that the anonymous account, you have posted something, and you realize that some problem has happened because of that. So you tend to easily dissociate with that, in that particular circumstances. So this is what is dissociative anonymity. Anonymity means being anonymous online, and dissociative means since you are anonymous, since that particular character or personality is not related to your online self, you tend to dissociate it with that particular personality easily. Second very important factor is invisibility. The moment you are online, and this happens especially when you are involved in a conversation that's a text-driven conversation. You can visit to number of websites, you go to number of message boards, you can involve in a number of chat forums, and especially like when you are into text-based conversation, people cannot see you. Right, you are not seen by other people, and this actually disinhibits other. What happens that when you have face-to-face communication, when you know that people, they are watching you, at that point of time there is some amount of inhibition, which means that the other person's reaction, the other person's response, their feedback plays a very important role in the kind of communication which you are having. Many a times what happens that you start something with a message, and you have something in mind that okay, this is something which I'm going to deliver, but it gets changed, it gets distracted, not because you wanted to do so, it's because the other person, the person on the other side reacted, responded, and gave feedback in a different way, and that's why you changed your message a little bit. But the moment you are invisible, you are not visible to other, it makes you disinhibited. It makes you feel that okay, fine, the other person is not watching you. You are not, if you're saying something, if you're not, looking at their feedback, their reactions, their body language, that disinhibits you. So that is something which is called invisibility. In fact, like when we talk about psychology and traditional psychoanalytic theory, whenever there is a psychology session, there is a therapy session in traditional psychoanalytic theory, the psychologist and the patient used to sit with his back towards the psychologist, and the reason was that when you have to share your feelings, your problem with with the psychologist, you should not be able to see the reaction and the feedback and the body language of that particular person, because then it might disinhibit you. So this is what is invisibility. Now asynchronicity. This is another factor. People do not communicate with each other in real time, especially like when we talk about the email messages. In this, what is happening that there's no real time conversation happening, which means that the conversation is not such that the moment I speak, instantly I'll receive a feedback from the other person. So there is always a time gap, and this gives the other person an opportunity to to craft his or her messages nicely. So just because they don't have to see the feedback instantly, that makes these people less inhibited. And there is a difference between the continuous feedback and the delayed feedback. And one of the psychotherapists, whose name is Kylie Munro, he also called it as an emotional hit and run. Now, emotional hit and run is it's a very interesting thing. Emotional hit and run is that there are a lot of things which are going on in your mind, and you just want to take that out. So what do? If you're angry, you're frustrated, you just go on online, you just go on Facebook, you just take out your anger and you just run away from that particular place. And maybe after 4 or 5 days, you just come back to see what kind of comments your post has actually received. So this is the example of asynchronicity, just because the communication is not happening in a real time. There is no instant feedback, and that disinhibits you, and that's why you tend to post something which you are posting on the Facebook or Twitter. Another concept is the factor which is responsible for online disinhibition is solipsistic introjection. And when we read something in our heads, we do so in our voices. And this is especially true when we don't know what the other person sounds like. We may also assign a look to a person we don't know, often borrowing from someone we do know or have known. As communication goes on, the character can be developed more fully, and we may lose sight of what we have imagined versus we actually know. Now, the voice in our head is comfortable and a good place to fantasize, test ideas, and take risks we wouldn't with the other people. While in chat rooms or while instant messaging, people may forget it's not just a conversation with themselves. Now, this is something which is very interesting, which means that, when you're talking to a stranger, you're talking to a person you have never met before. And we tend to accept, the friend request from the strangers many a times. And when you get into the conversation with that particular person, what you do is, according to your own experiences, you try to create an image of that person. Right? Also, the messages, which means that the kind of communication which is going on, that also helps you in creating an image of that particular person. Now, when you are creating an image of that person, that image has been created by you. And since that image has been created by you, you feel comfortable with that particular image, and in the process you share a lot of information with that particular person, because the image has been created by you and you feel comfortable with that. And even that if that person is a stranger, but still you share a lot of information with that particular person. So this is what is solipsistic introjection. Another factor is a dissociative imagination. This is, many a times, and there are a number of people who feel that, whatever is happening online, it's all imagination, it's all a fantasy, and they take their experiences on cyberspace like that. And since they consider it as a fantasy imagination game, it always becomes easy for them to dissociate with such circumstances. So most people believe that they can keep the dream world and the real world completely separate. So the moment they go online, they might play different games, they might interact with certain people in a certain way, but the moment they are offline, they totally dissociate with that imaginary world which they had created online. So, and this is the last factor which actually leads to the online disinhibition effect, and this is called minimizing authority. Minimizing authority is like, it says that we are all equals, and we know that on internet we are all equals. It's not that a person who has got very high designation, that person has more access to the features which are available on internet. So what happens that it minimizes authority in the sense that the internet treats them as equal. So whatever happens online, it doesn't happen because of the designation or because of the profession of one particular person. It happens on the basis of the kind of interaction which is happening at that point of time. So people might get influenced by maybe employee from one particular organization, but they might not get influenced by the CEO of that particular organization. Yes, the little bit of that element related to authority will always be there, but ultimately it will be the kind of interaction which is happening amongst the people, and the kind of messages which people are writing. If the message is very strong, then obviously, and if we talk about the Twitter, if the tweet is very strong, then obviously a lot of people, without caring like who has posted that particular thing, they'll retweet that particular message. So the minimizing authority is another factor which leads to online disinhibition, because people feel that we are all equal, and that's the place which I have got, and here I can say anything to anyone. So these were the factors which were related to online disinhibition, and taken together, these variables can create a space where inhibitions are lowered and personality aspects rarely seen in a person may emerge and flourish. So if you look at the cyber psychology as a field, and as I said in the very beginning, that it's at its infancy, which means that the people have just started working on this. There are very few theories related to cyber psychology, but yes, there is a lot of work which is going on, and more people start coming on to this particular platform, and when they start spending more time on this particular platform, there are a lot of issues which will be taken care of, and and this particular concept will evolve over the years. Now, another concept, as I said, that we'll be talking about, and which is related to cyber psychology, and that is called narcissism. Now, narcissism is the pursuit of gratification from vanity or egotistic admiration of one's own attributes. The term originated from Greek mythology, where young Narcissus fell in love with his own image reflected in a pool of water. Narcissism is a concept in a psychoanalytic theory which was popularly introduced in Sigmund Freud's essay on narcissism. See, and this happened in 1914. So this is not a new concept. It's just that the internet tools have actually, the increased, or the rise in narcissism happened because of, the emergence of a lot of internet tools. You have Facebook available, you have Instagram available, you have Flickr available, you have a YouTube wherein one can have his or her own channel, you have blogs wherein the people can share a lot of information with each other. So what happens that when we are talking about narcissism, here what is happening is that you tend to post a lot of information about yourself. You're so much in love with yourself that you don't empathize with other people, and there are a number of reasons for narcissism also, and we'll be talking about all these reasons after a break. Right? we were discussing about narcissism, and as I said that this is something which was actually this concept was given by Sigmund Freud, and that too in 1914. So that's not a new concept at all. It's just that the rise in narcissism is being driven by the internet tools. And in fact, the psychologist Jean Twenge and W. Keith Campbell, they had said that, we are in the midst of narcissism epidemic. And we know that, nowadays, if you look at the Facebook, if you look at the Twitter, or if you look at Instagram, Flickr, all these platforms are full of, the photographs of number of people, they, for every reason and, whatever is happening in their life, they are sharing those particular information, with the, large number of people. So what this narcissism is all about, and to know more about this narcissism, I have a small little video for you. So let's have a look at that video.
This week's highly acclaimed movie, The Social Network, we're once again reminded of how social media is now a huge part of our lives. The downside is that social media sites are also populated by the self-absorbed, what psychologists call narcissists. Since social media sites can be used as one big mirror, narcissists flock to them. They delight in exhibiting themselves. No detail of their lives is deemed unimportant, especially to you. Posting the latest pictures of themselves in bikinis and on vacations, keeping everyone current on what they're doing like we care, and generally sharing every detail about their lives, large or small, keeps the self-absorbed coming back to the internet for more. In fact, Facebook is a narcissist's dream come true, since it provides an endless arena of adoration 24 hours a day, even with international syndication. Now, since self-absorbed people can be very bad for normal people, it's important that you learn how to spot them on Facebook and any other site so you can avoid them. Here are the top clues. Adoration of the self. Narcissistic Facebook users like to talk about themselves and absolutely nothing else. Not in a normal Facebook profile kind of way, though. They go on and on and on about anything and everything, from who their favorite celebrity is to what they ate for breakfast. They consider themselves fascinating and are convinced that everyone would really want to read about every detail of their lives. There is nothing their audience doesn't want to hear. Control over self-presentation. The self-absorbed like Facebook because they can control exactly how they're presented to the world. Don't look great in that picture? Untag it. Don't want everybody knowing what you did last night when you were drunk? Delete the post on your wall. Facebook is a tool to create the perfect image of yourself and to control the spin. Too much skin. Have you ever seen a profile picture where the person is almost naked, either at the beach or holding up the camera in the bathroom mirror? Narcissists love to show you how good they look. Now, if they are showing off too much skin, run. Delete them. Constant updates. Narcissists update constantly about everything they do. No, we really do not need to know what you ate for lunch or that you look totally hot in that dress again. Overposting is a big sign of self-glorification and a very narrow life. Shallow relationships. A recent study claims that you can only have around 150 relationships, from best friends to random acquaintances, before your brain literally overloads and can't take it anymore. When you see someone who has over 1,000 friends on Facebook, consider this a lie. Unless they're a celebrity or the President of the United States, they most likely do not know all of them. They haven't even met most of them. And those they do know are most likely very shallow relationships, like someone they met in a bar or at a party once. Narcissistic mirroring. The self-absorbed love to praise their fellow narcissist. Justifying and praising another narcissist's behavior is called narcissistic mirroring and only reinforces the trait. In fact, one of the favorite things self-absorbed people like to do is to bask in one another's glow. Check their post and wall conversations to see if they have a ton of random praise from other narcissists. It's like a virtual audience that cheers you on constantly, but has no validity. Now that you know general ways to detect narcissists on Facebook, here are some gender-specific ways that each sex uses Facebook to boost their image and reputation. Men of many words. Men are all about verbal self-promotion. Look for outlandish about me sections that highlight their intelligence, wit, physique, and just how cool they really are. Females use visual titillation. Women tend to post pictures of themselves in revealing or sexy clothing to attract a following. 1 or 2 pictures at the beach are okay, but when you're doing entire photo shoots with different outfits and hairstyles, there's really something wrong with you. Get a life. Now, for more tips and information, make sure to read all of my posts on Twitter at Dr. Gehring, check out all of my pictures on Facebook, and read every update I might make on my blog at Gehring.
Now you've seen this video, and I think you can spot narcissist. So when you look at the Facebook, and when you look at a lot of photographs, and the other people might be getting a lot of likes and comments on their photograph, don't feel bad. I mean, you know that there is a concept called narcissism, and it's not advisable, and it's not good to have a lot of photographs there on the Facebook, and it's not okay to post each and everything which is happening in your life on Facebook. So that was about the narcissism, and now we'll come on to another concept, and which is called trolling. The trolling is something which is a very new phenomena, which means that if you're talking about the internet trolls, who exactly those internet trolls are, these are the individuals on web who connect to create chaos. And according to Dr. Claire Hardaker, academic researcher, troll is a computer user who constructs the identity of sincerely wishing to be a part of the group in question, but whose real intention is to cause disruption and trigger conflict for the purposes of their amusement. So the trolls, you might see trolls there on the different websites, wherein you have the articles and the comment box is open for the comments, and you'll see that number of people they are writing the negative comments there. You can see these trolls on the Facebook. You can see these trolls on the on Twitter also. And the main purpose of these trolls is actually to create chaos on a cyberspace. And initially, like when the discussion on this particular concept started, it was found out that these people are doing it for the amusement. They were having a good time, and they just wanted to disrupt a kind of conversation which was going on, and this is what the definition of trolls. But there are different types of trolls. According to Dr. Claire, there are different types of trolls. The first one is rip trolls, who spend their time causing misery on the memorial sites. Then we have fame trolls who focus all their energies on provoking celebrities, and this is something which we see very often. You look at any celebrity Facebook page or Twitter account, you'll see there are a lot of people who are there criticizing them, making fun of them, and the fame trolls are the trolls which they troll all the celebrities. Then you have care trolls who purport to see abuse in every post about children or animals. And then we have the political trolls who seek to bully MPs out of office and may other besides. Then after this, Helen Lewis in her article, Who Are the Trolls, published in New Statements, added 2 more categories. The first one was the subcultural trolls or true trolls, the ones who troll forums full of honest people and derail their conversation with silly questions or hackers. Now this is basically that that forum, they are talking about certain issue. I mean, it could be some campaign or it could be some issue based chat forum, and they are into a serious conversation and interaction, and there these trolls are there because they are there because they just want to disrupt the kind of conversation which is happening in that particular group. So she added another the type of trolls that is called subcultural troll. Another troll is the professional troll, and we can also call them trollumnist. Like the columnist, we can always call them trollumnist, and these are the writers and public figures whose media careers are built on their willingness to say the unsayable, or rather say something which will attract huge volumes of attention and hits. So their reason of writing something which is which may catch attention of number of people, it's not because they really feel for that issue, but because they know that if they'll write like that, it will attract a lot of people. A lot of people may like that comment or dislike that comment. So the reason of doing so is to attract large number of people toward their post or toward their tweets. And this is a very interesting concept wherein they are also called as trollumnist. Now another the category which can be added to the types of troll is the anti-woman trolls. Now this is something which is a very serious concern, which means that if we talk about the women population who are there on internet, there are only 29% of women who are there on internet right now. And the reason, and when the survey was conducted, and the reason when they were asked why they were not there on the internet, it was said that they don't have that much of time. They are busy, they don't have that much of time. Many of them, they said that they are scared because of the kind of things which are happening on the internet. And there are a number of issues which had happened in the past, especially like when we are talking about anti-women trolls. Here we are talking about the women who are very vocal. We are talking about feminists, and we have seen in the past the way they've been trolled. So, and there have been number of cases also. For example, there is one case of a journalist, VP Rajina, who also got GD Goenka award for her work in the field of journalism, and she was trolled like anything. And the post which she made was about her experiences in madrasas. And there were a lot of people who trolled her, criticized her, but she fought trolls. There are a lot of people who they also supported her, and then there some policy was made out of that. So which means that there are a number of people who are not able to accept that the women they are on online, and they are very active, they are very vocal. So there is another category which is called anti-woman troll. Now there are certain personality traits which are related, which we can associate with these trolls. One is it could be, we can call it the dark triad or tetrad. The first one is the Machiavellian, which means that these are the people who are predisposed to being cold and detached in order to manipulate others. Second is something which we have just discussed, and that is the narcissist, which means that this indicates an inflated sense of self and lack of empathy towards other people. And the third one is the psychopathy, and in sociology they also call it as an antisocial disorder. This results in an inability to feel empathy or guilt and tendency to take advantage of other people. And then the fourth one is the sadism. Sadism is the tendency to take pleasure from other people's pain. So these are the characteristics or the personality traits of the different trolls. And this is not that you'll find when we talk about the trolls, I mean they're only bad. We also have the good trolls also. For example, the anonymous group which is there on internet, who are against the internet censorship, and just because they want that the internet should be a free place or space and without any censorship, they keep posting number of things using the fake IDs and all. So the trolling can be used for the positive purpose and for the negative purpose, but mostly it is used for the negative person, because when you're doing something good, you would always like to associate that good work with your real personality. You won't use the fake ID for that. And if you're doing something wrong, then definitely, I mean, you'll use certain fake ID. The only thing is that, when we talk about the trolling as a concept, how to handle these trolls. So the one thing which we people have to keep in mind is that we do not have to feed trolls, because we know that and in any account or even on Twitter, one can easily make out that whether it's a fake ID or it's a real ID, or which means that the real account is there. So whenever you feel that the fake ID is there and the person is trying to create a chaos on that particular platform, it's always advisable to ignore trolls, rather than feeding and rather than getting into conversation with those particular people. So the ones you identify, it's better to ignore them. So that's about internet trolling. And this is all about cyber psychology as a field. There are three concepts which we have discussed. One is online disinhibition effect, another is narcissism, and the third one is internet trolling. And as I said that this concept is still evolving, and every day something new is coming, as we are spending a lot of time on these particular platforms, and the way we are behaving on this particular platform is totally different than the way we behave in the real life. So that's all from me right now. What you can do is, we've talked about the online disinhibition effect. This particular lecture will also be available on the YouTube. So if you can give me the reasons, for example, if I'm talking about online disinhibition, have you ever felt disinhibited online? Have you ever done something online wherein you feel that yes, you were disinhibited? So just write that in the comment box to start a conversation on this, because it's an evolving thing and we all have to participate in the process. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. And dear friends, we believe that all what is taught by Dr. Anubhuti Yadav today is very, very beneficial for you. And whatever instructions she has given to you, please follow them because they will help you out in understanding what she has taught. So we would tell you all that your feedbacks are very, very important. Do write to us at info.cec@nic.in, as well as if you want to see the lecture once again, then we would like to tell you that this lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube very soon for you. So keep watching the lectures pertaining to the series New Media. We would be meeting again soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Thank you.